Tonight, on First at 9 this Tuesday, the 2nd of December 2025. Too hot to handle. Impossible to withstand the sudden economic shock, says the President. Further asserts the need for aid to fund post-disaster rebuilding efforts. Winds of death. Fatalities of Cyclone Ditwa climbs to 465. 366 remain missing. Rescue missions continue island-wide. On the back foot, Kalani River water levels recede. Flood warnings issued to low-lying areas still in effect. Brace for impact. Northeast monsoons expected to establish over the island, notes the Met. Rains to re-intensify from the 4th of December.
Kalin baby soap රුපියල් 90කට. Kalin baby පොඩි හැමෝටමයි.
From Derana, this is Derana First at 9. Live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
Good evening and welcome to First at 9 on the Derana News channel. I'm Aditya Singha joining you live with the latest in Sri Lanka and around the world. Brought to you by the only Sri Lankan media network to rise to the pinnacle across all media platforms, recognized as the best by every survey and beloved by the people. Now, your top story tonight, the Irrigation Department says the water level of the Kalani River, which overflowed and submerged low-lying areas on both banks, is gradually receding. Accordingly, the readings of the Nagalagam Vidya water gauge, the final gauge along the Kalani River, had dropped from the high flood level to the low flood level by this afternoon. However, the low-lying areas on both banks of the Kalani River continue to remain inundated.
The water level in the low-lying areas on both sides of the Kalani River, which was submerged by heavy rains caused by Cyclone Ditwa, is gradually receding. However, several low-lying areas including Kadwela, Kalaniya, Biyagama, Ambatale, Angoda, Kolonnawa, Vallampitiya, Sedawatta, Gotatuwa and surrounding regions still remain inundated. This is how Kadwela town appeared this morning. Traffic has resumed along the road leading up to Aturugiri Expressway entrance, which had been blocked by floods. Although a decrease in water levels has been observed in the flood-affected areas of Kalaniya, Ambatale, Galwana, Angoda and Vallampitiya, some areas remain inundated. The water level at the Nagalagam Strait gauge on the Kalani River has been gradually decreasing since last night. Accordingly, the water level, which had risen to a major flood stage following the heavy rainfall associated with the cyclone, had dropped to a minor flood level by this afternoon. While the gauge recorded 7.5 feet at 6 am today, it had dropped to 6.75 feet by the evening. The water in areas inundated by the torrential rains brought by Cyclone Ditwa is also gradually receding. The sluice gates of the Senanaga Samudra remain open, causing the water level of the Galloya to rise. This has resulted in a breach of the riverbanks in the Pallakadu area of Samanture, submerging thousands of acres of paddy fields. The Somavatiya sacred site remains submerged due to the overflowing of the Mahaveli River. A wild elephant stranded in the floodwaters was captured on a mobile phone as it stood on the sacred steps of the pagoda. With the reduction of water flowing from the upper catchments of the Mahaveli River, its water level dropped. The bodies of cattle that perished in the floods, along with debris, were seen lodged against the Manampitiya bridge today. This is the current state of the Trincomalee Buttur area, which remains underwater. The entrance road to the Polonnaru Pudur village, severely damaged by the floods, has also collapsed, causing severe hardship to residents. Meanwhile, the Polonnaru Pulatisipura National College of Education has been extensively damaged. All books in its library have been destroyed and all computers in the Computer Learning Centre have been ruined by floodwaters.
ගුරු ශිෂ්‍යයන් එකතු වෙලා පුළුවන් තරම් උත්සාහ කරා වතුර මට්ටම වැඩි වෙනකොට මේ තියෙන පොත්පත් උඩින් තියන්න. පල්ලෙහා තට්ටු දෙකේ පොත්පත් විතරයි අපිට අස් කරගන්න පුළුවන් වුණේ. ඒවත් උඩින් තිබ්බා. නමුත් තුන්වෙනි තට්ටුව දක්වාත් වතුර අල්ලලා තියෙනවා. මේවටත් වතුර අල්ලලා තියෙනවා. ඒවා විනාශ වෙලා තියෙනවා. පොත් 30000කට අධිකයි.
Reconstruction work on the Polonnaruwa-Batticaloa railway line, where 667 sleepers were washed away, has now commenced following the recession of floodwaters. Among the 3 bridges destroyed over the Amban Ganga following the opening of the Moragahkanda Reservoir, reconstruction of the Kumara Alla Bridge on the Colombo Mahiyangane main road resumed today. After the water receded, widespread destruction of bridges, highways, houses and other structures was observed in many areas. Cleaning operations were carried out today in many areas, including major towns where floodwaters receded.
ඔබේ සම හඳුනාගෙන ඖෂධීය ශාකසාරමය forever face wash එකක් භාවිතා කරන්න.
අප වෙනුවෙන් කැපවූ ලංකාවේ අපේ අංක එකේ ජාලය ඩයලොග්. දවටනේ නියම මිල සඳහන් ස්විස් ටෙක් නිෂ්පාදන මිලදී ගන්න. ස්විස් ටෙක් ගන්න ඕන හොඳම තීරණය.
Now, as Sri Lankans continue to grapple the consequences of Cyclone Ditwa, the number of fatalities have risen to 465. The DMC notes that 366 persons still remain missing under mounds of earth, rubble and debris. Rescue and relief missions continued island-wide, while operations to locate the missing are also underway across all disaster-struck areas.
Missions to locate missing persons following fatal landslides and floods prompted by the impacts of Cyclone Ditwa continued today. Sri Lankan Defence Forces as well as Indian relief troops in a joint operation rescued residents of Pusella Kanda located within the Saranatota Divisional Secretariat of the Badula district following a fatal landslide. Remains of the deceased were recovered during the operation, which was conducted with the participation of 20 Indian relief personnel as well as police canine units. Another Derana media team managed to reach severely disaster-struck Kotmale this morning. Meanwhile, residents of Paragalavatta in Dolosbaghe and Avalapitiya managed to recover the remains of the deceased, including children, after a series of fatal landslides affected the region.
12
residences were completely destroyed in a deadly landslide in Nelummalgama Udattava, located within the Minipe Divisional Secretariat Division. Missions conducted so far led to the recovery of remains of 21 individuals in the area, and their final rites were performed at the Pamunupura Primary School thereafter. Operations continue to recover remains of 7 residents who remain missing. Meanwhile, visuals of a landslide that occurred in Beravilla circulated on social media today. Another set of visuals depicting a mission to recover the remains of persons missing under the rubble in the aftermath of a landslide in Rendapula Kapatipala also circulated on social media. The personnel of the 3rd Battalion of the Sri Lanka Singha Regiment launched an operation yesterday to locate 2 children, their parents and grandmother, who were reported missing since a landslide in Chandirigama Kandapula. The mission proved unsuccessful. A landslide was reported from Bambarabadda Hunnasgiriya in the wake of heavy rainfall received in the area during the past few days. Over 40 residences in the area were damaged, while operations continue to locate persons missing under the rubble. Meanwhile, residents of Ihalagama in Mavatura, Kotmale, managed to recover the remains of 9 individuals buried under mounds of earth following a landslide. In other inclement weather-related developments, an earth slip occurred between Kotagala and Talawakale. The upcountry railway line has sustained damage between Nanuaya and Ohia. Similarly, the railway line running between Kandy and Mathalu was damaged in Yatavara Wattegama owing to a landslide in the area. Locals confirmed that several residences located nearby are under threat of collapse. In the meantime, police revealed that several fractures and craters have appeared on the Hatton-Ginigathena road. The police confirmed this information following the conclusion of an operation to remove boulders and sand that had collapsed onto the road. The Disaster Management Centre reports an unfortunate toll of 465 deaths and 336 missing owing to the disaster situation faced by all 25 districts across Sri Lanka. No new deaths were reported from Kandy today, and the district's death toll remains at 88, which remains the highest number of fatalities reported from one single district. 150 persons are reported missing within the district. The Badula district, meanwhile, reported 83 fatalities, while the district secretary confirmed that 28 persons are missing within the district. It is also reported that 19 reservoirs, 276 anicuts and 625 canals within the Badula district have been damaged. 6 schools within the district have also been damaged following the unprecedented inclement weather. In the Nureli district, meanwhile, 75 fatalities and 62 missing were reported. In the meantime, the latest DMC report further indicates that 52 fatalities and 27 missing persons were reported from the Kurunegala district. 24 deaths and 6 missing persons were reported from the Matale district, while the Kegol district reports 22 fatalities and 48 missing. A total of 565 residences had been completely destroyed, while 20,271 residences were partially damaged. 269 residences were completely destroyed in the Badula district alone. According to the Disaster Management Centre, 1,466,615 individuals of 407,594 families are affected by the prevalent disaster situation. Meanwhile, 233,015 persons of 64,483 families are currently housed at 1,441 relief centres island-wide.
30% discount on Arpico Farm and Spring mattresses available at Arpico Supercenter and Arpico Daily.
Musa Phoenix Nattal Fiesta November 13 සිට 16 දක්වා අනුරාධපුර ස්පොට්නික් ක්‍රීඩා පිටියේදී.
Now, in the wake of the devastating cyclone Ditwa, the northeast monsoon conditions are expected to gradually establish over the island during the next few days. The Department of Meteorology forecasts that due to the monsoon's impact, rainy conditions over the island, particularly in the northern, north central, eastern, Uva and central provinces will enhance from Thursday the 4th of December. The general public is requested to be attentive to future forecasts and bulletins issued by the Met Department. Now, the military and the police once again joined forces today to carry out coordinated rescue operations in disaster-hit areas. Indian rescue teams continue to provide vital relief to affected communities.
Today, an Indian Air Force Mi-17 helicopter rescued 24 people, including foreigners, displaced by floods in the Kotmale area and brought them safely to Katunayaka Air Force Base. Yesterday, 21 foreigners displaced in Nureli were also evacuated to the same location.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
In Putlam, a pregnant woman was rescued by the Indian NDRF and relocated to a safe place. Helicopters also airlifted essential supplies to inaccessible areas including Aranayaka and evacuated injured individuals. Children, women and patients affected by floods in Matale and Kotmale were airlifted to Colombo by an Indian helicopter. Meanwhile, heavy rainfall has triggered floods across Mena, Nanattan, Murunkan, Vidayanakulam and Settikulam. In response, the Sri Lanka Navy and Army conducted a joint rescue operation yesterday, safely evacuating 58 people to safe locations. The Navy also rescued a group trapped in a house in the Pahalagama area along the Gampaha-Jaila road. In addition, the police special task force intervened in Vellampitiya, Vilevath and Gotatuwa, ensuring the safety of residents facing threats during the floods. Meanwhile, the Sri Lanka Army led efforts to reconstruct roads damaged by the disaster.
Now, while the authorities toil hard to save people, President Anodisanaika says Sri Lanka will require a significant quantity of aid in the coming months as the national economy is unable to withstand the shock of the disaster situation. The head of state made this comment during a meeting with provincial governors and chief secretaries.
This is by far the worst disaster to hit Sri Lanka in recent years. We cannot yet confirm the number of lives lost. Due to precarious situations in some areas, the death toll may yet rise. Some people are trapped in their homes, some are in friends and relatives' houses, while others are in displaced camps. We must supply food, water, health and sanitary facilities to all of these people. Our next major step is strengthening infrastructure and essential services. One of the major challenges we are are facing is establishing access routes. Several major roads are damaged at 256 locations and a number of bridges have collapsed. However, accurate data on road damages needs to be acquired from provincial councils. We have already issued a circular authorizing the Essential Services Secretariat to transfer staff and equipment from unaffected areas to disaster-hit areas. Many areas lost communication links. We have been in discussion with major telecom providers for several days now and they will restore connections as soon as possible. However, restoring electricity connections will take more time as major power lines have been damaged. We have drafted a plan to restore electricity as soon as possible. Our most difficult task is rebuilding the country. We will need a large quantity of aid. This disaster struck at a time when the economy was rebuilding and the economy cannot withstand this shock. There is still time to recommence agricultural activities. To that end, we must ensure the supply of seeds and fertilizer. We must assess the damage to agricultural land and compensate farmers as soon as possible. Then farmers will be able to supply rice during the coming Maha season. Rural industries are facing a severe collapse. We must support them and draft plans to revive the economy. The next biggest challenge is resettling displaced communities and supporting them until their means of income are restored. We must allocate funds for this purpose. To that end, we require reports on the extent of the damage in each province, which will enable us to draft relevant estimates. We will expedite the provision of those funds. Funds can be allocated through next year's budget, which is currently being finalized. Work efficiently without being restricted by the usual routine of circulars. The state cannot address this crisis alone. Therefore, we held discussions with non-government entities, political parties, the business community, Sri Lankan diasporas and foreign nations. If we work according to a plan, we can rapidly lay the foundation to rebuild the nation.
Welcome back. Now, the government has decided to increase the allowance provided for restoring disaster-hit residences to 25,000 rupees. The Treasury further intends to provide financial assistance worth 10,500 rupees for disaster-affected families. Meanwhile, the Ministry of Education announces that the remaining subjects of the GCE Advanced Level Examination, which were postponed due to adverse weather, will be conducted early January next year.
The Ministry of Education convened a press briefing today to announce the resumption of the advanced level examination and the reopening of schools and other educational institutions.
We expect to resume academic activities on the 16th of this month in the least affected areas. Schools will reopen in phases. The advanced level examination will not be held this month. The Commissioner General of Examinations has been instructed to schedule the exam on the earliest possible date in January next year. Similarly, universities and other higher education institutions may recommence academic operations after the 8th of this month, depending on the national situation.
The government has decided to increase the financial assistance provided to restore each landslide or flood-affected residents to habitable and hygienic conditions from 10,000 rupees to 25,000 rupees.
The Minister of Finance has approved an increase in the allowance granted to disaster-affected families to clean their homes from 10,000 rupees to 25,000 rupees. Additionally, the 3,600 rupees previously allocated to each affected family as financial assistance has now been increased to 10,500 rupees.
Police requests that relief teams coordinate properly by contacting the phone numbers provided by the police headquarters before delivering food and other essential items to disaster-affected communities. Police spokesperson ASP F.U. Wootler said uncoordinated visits by relief groups are causing disruptions to ongoing road repair operations.
If the public is unable to reach relatives or loved ones in disaster-affected areas, they are advised to contact the designated hotlines. Police teams will coordinate the relevant divisions to trace and provide information regarding those individuals.
The Agricultural and Agrarian Insurance Board confirmed that it is ready to provide immediate compensation for damaged farmlands. The Sri Lanka Medical Association has introduced a dedicated hotline to provide medical guidance to displaced communities.
The public is strongly urged to take necessary precautions to prevent the spread of infectious diseases. Only purified, preferably boiled water should be consumed. People are advised not to enter flood waters unnecessarily, as contaminated water may carry germs due to overflowing drains and the presence of human and animal remains. For guidance on health precautions, the public may contact the dedicated hotline 0777 119 900. Those directly affected may also reach out through this number for immediate assistance.
Now, the Derana Dialogue Relief Operation continues into its 5th day, providing support to communities affected by inclement weather. Distribution of food and essential supplies collected from across the island by the Derana head office is already underway to assist those in need.
The Derana Dialogue Relief Operation, launched 4 days ago, continues to support people affected by severe weather conditions. Donors from across the island have joined this national effort, contributing essential supplies to assist those in need during this challenging period. Yesterday, numerous donors visited the TV Derana head office in Colombo 10 to hand over donations throughout the day and night. The relief operation team worked tirelessly to ensure that all contributions were promptly directed to affected communities. The Derana Dialogue Initiative enters its 5th day today, with people continuing to bring relief materials to the TV Derana head office since early morning. As you can see, donations from the public are steadily incoming, and your donations and contributions are being safely delivered to the disaster-affected areas. The need remains urgent. We continue to urge for your support and contributions, especially in sanitary napkins, dry clothing, bottled water and dried rations. Your support can truly make a difference. We encourage everyone to join hands with Derana to help those in need in this very critical moment.
Meanwhile, the government reveals that relief supplies sent to Sri Lanka by overseas donors will be exempt from taxes and licensing requirements. Meanwhile, several nations including India, Pakistan and China have stepped forward with assistance for Sri Lanka at this hour of need.
As the nation reels from the impact of Cyclone Ditwa, several countries have extended vital support to Sri Lanka during this time of urgent need. One of the most notable gestures came when India granted Pakistan exceptional overflight clearance for its humanitarian aid flights to Sri Lanka, despite both nations having prohibited airspace access to each other's aircraft following heightened tensions after the Pahalgam attack in late April. Meanwhile, talking to X, Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi reaffirmed India's commitment to provide all necessary assistance under Operation Sagar Bandhu, adding that India will stand firmly with Sri Lanka through its rehabilitation and recovery. Russian President Vladimir Putin, in a letter to President Anura Dissanayake, convened his condolences over the tragic loss of lives and extensive destruction caused by floods and landslides. In the meantime, a special telethon aired by a Maldivian state media outlet raised over $782,000 in support of Sri Lanka's disaster relief efforts. China has also extended assistance, donating $1 million towards relief operations. Additionally, China is expected to provide in-kind donations valued at 100,000 yuan. Meanwhile, 2 flights carrying humanitarian aid and relief supplies from the United Arab Emirates arrived in Sri Lanka today. Meanwhile, Sri Lanka Customs announced that all aid consignments sent to Sri Lanka by overseas donors in support of disaster relief operations will be cleared free of duties.
The government has published the list of required relief supplies on the donate.gov.lk website. There is no restriction to only provide the listed items. Donors may contribute any additional essentials they wish. The clearance process for humanitarian aid will be expedited and exempt from tariff and licensing requirements if consignments are addressed to the Defence Secretary or the Director of the Disaster Management Centre. We kindly request donors to attach a document detailing the contents of each consignment and the quantities of each item, as this will greatly streamline the clearance process. Aid addressed to private individuals or organizations, however, cannot be exempt from taxes. Further guidelines can be obtained by contacting Sri Lanka Customs through the 24/7 hotline at 0094 or +94 70 475 2823. Additionally, the Disaster Management Centre can be reached at +94 77 395 7905.
Now, several public representatives joined disaster relief operations in several areas of the island today. Meanwhile, opposition leader Sajith Premadasa participated in a number of diplomatic meetings focusing on the provision of aid to disaster-affected Sri Lankans.
Opposition leader Sajith Premadasa joined a special meeting with a World Bank delegation in Sri Lanka this morning to discuss the provision of relief to the public in the wake of the current disaster situation. Thereafter, the opposition leader held discussions with Italian ambassador to Sri Lanka and German ambassador. During the meetings, both sides focused on wide range of economic, social and environmental challenges that have emerged following the disaster. Opposition leader Premadasa also met Indian High Commissioner Santosh Jha this morning, where he expressed gratitude for India's support for the people of Sri Lanka. Meanwhile, a group of opposition MPs led by Sarojana Balaya leader Dilip Jayavira met with the Kandy district secretary this morning to discuss the humanitarian missions to repair damages in the Kandy district, which has been among the worst affected. We are planning to visit all affected districts. There is an issue with gathering accurate situation data, but we do not wish to discuss shortcomings during a time like this because our priority right now is different. Despite all our differences, we are not here to engage in the traditional blame game, but to extend our support to find a clear solution to this crisis. Many areas have still not received any relief. Instead of blaming the government at this moment, we are here to provide assistance in every way we can. We plan to propose in Parliament the establishment of a dedicated fund to provide relief to the affected communities. Since this cannot be resolved using treasury funds alone, as the President stated, I will donate my salary for next month to support relief efforts. I would also like to request the JVP to allocate part of their party fund to assist these affected people as well. Meanwhile, National Organizer of Sri Lanka, Podujana Perumana, Namal Rajapaksa visited Malwana today to inquire about the well-being of residents displaced by the floods. People are disappointed by the conduct of the political authority in relation to relief operations. I believe this is not something we should focus on at this moment. I have asked officials to make correct decisions and we will stand by them. I believe we must do right by the people during this time.
Now, a special statement was issued by the United National Party today claiming that the National Disaster Management Plan 2023-2030 approved by the Cabinet in February 2024 outlines key actions for disaster preparedness, including coordination with technical agencies, issuing early warnings and providing situation updates. It further claims that the plan was not activated on November 27th when needed and crucial early warning messages were not disseminated. The President, the Prime Minister and the Cabinet failed to declare a state of disaster, leading to inaction under the Disaster Management Act, asserts the UNP. The Supreme Court has ruled that failure to protect citizens' rights to life due to such inaction is a constitutional violation as seen in the Easter attack case. Now, the Colombo Magistrates Court today ordered the remand of former Minister C.B. Ratnayaka until the 16th of December following his arrest by the Bribery Commission. Ratnayaka was arrested on suspicion of illegally acquiring assets exceeding 5.73 billion rupees between the 31st of March 2018 and March 31st, 2013, March 31st, 2011 and March 31st, 2013, which is significantly above his legal income. Welcome back. Now in your business news, the Colombo Stock Exchange gained positive momentum today as a result of price gains in counters such as Access Engineering, Aitken Spence and Cooperative Insurance Company. The benchmark SPI gained 1.08% to close at 22,558.89, while the more liquid S&P Sri Lanka 20 increased by 1.06% to end the day at 6,150.15. Market turnover was 4 billion rupees. Foreign participation in market activity remained at subdued levels, with foreigners closing as net sellers, offloading shares worth 106 million rupees. Up next is Kavya Jayasinghe from Capital Alliance with a few thoughts to round off our Markets in View segment for the week.
Sri Lankan equities closed weaker last week as the ASPI fell 1.17% to 22,712, while the S&P SL20 declined 1.53% to 6,267. Trading activity was sharply lower, with market turnover dropping 16% week on week to 16.7 billion rupees. Market sentiment this week could turn negative, reflecting investor concerns surrounding the unprecedented flooding situations across the country and its potential economic impact. Meanwhile, at the latest Treasury bill auction, 86.1 billion rupees was offered, but only 55.6 billion was accepted. Yields on the 3, 6 and 12-month maturities remains unchanged.
That's all the news we have for you tonight. Stay safe. Thank you for watching. Have a great night.